welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for another edition of On the Record, presented by Called It. Danny Burke, your host, here in the saddle, excited to talk plenty more World Cup action with you for about the next half hour or so. We never really know how long this is going to go sometimes because, hey, from time to time, we're hopping off the rails like yesterday's show where we're just hitting all types of crazy topics, and we'll see what today has in store for us. Dane Martinez, John Saponaro, they will be joining alongside, and we will get their thoughts on some of today's biggest World Cup matches, England and Ghana, where today's daily call does revolve around, so we'll get into that. We do have to reset the run, the challenge where we look to turn 250 into a million, because yesterday it did not come to fruition, unfortunately. So we start back on trade number one, $250 investment. Yesterday's call was Argentina and Austria to get over 2.5 goals. Hey, Messi tried his best, got two himself, but did not get to the 3 mark. Still, we'll reset it and we will start a new run, hopefully with a good angle today from the team at Called It with their approach for today's match between England and Ghana. Also in store, we have Portugal and Uzbekistan. That's going to be the first match of the day. We have to have some conversation about Cristiano Ronaldo. That was the main focus yesterday, and it will certainly be one today, not only for us, but across the entire world, to see what Portugal can do after they open the World Cup with a draw. A much needed win will be had for them. We'll see if they can put it together. And then we'll also talk some more World Cup in our trending topics section, because we've seen some unique, insane, monstrous, whatever you want to call it, wagers for the World Cup. All of these trades have been coming in on Polymarket and Kalshi, and man, they are literally just out of this world with the amount, and it hasn't always gone according to plan. So we're going to recap some of that as we conclude today's show. But until then, we have plenty to discuss. Before I bring on the fellas, let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that you can get signed up with all of our content at Called It. If you go to www.calledit.media, there you can enter your email address. It's completely free. All you do is enter that email, and automatically then you get our newsletter that features our daily call, so you can get a better number than the market more often than not. You can decide if you want to follow along. You can fade it. You can add in your own opinion, and there you can track your record and see how you stack up amongst the rest of the community. It's competitive. It's fun. We're having a blast over there, and you can also qualify for some free merchandise. 10 random users at the end of group play will be drawn, and you can qualify for sweatshirt, hat, polo, t-shirt, all these cool pieces of gear. All you got to do is head to the website and sign up. But folks, let's go ahead and jump in. We'll bring in our guests. We have John Saponaro, like we said, and Dane Martinez. John, let's kick it out to you live on the West Coast, brother. Happy to have you back in the fold. How we doing today?
It is good to be back. I've got my cup of coffee, of course, out here on the West Coast. It's a little bit earlier, a little early start time for me, but I'm ready to go. I got to rep my New York teams out on the West Coast. So I am feeling good, and I'm happy to talk to you and to meet Dane on today's show.
That's right. And for anybody who doesn't know, Dane, welcome in, my friend. Pleasure to have you as always, too. You know, both of these guys are New Yorkers. So they both, they're tried and true New Yorkers. Little bit of a difference with the baseball teams, but outside of that, you guys got a lot in common. Dane, how we doing?
Forget about it. We're doing okay. Good to see you, Danny. Good to see you, John. And John, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm 3 hours later, but I'm still drinking coffee too, because we got to get revved up and ready to go for another slate of 4 games of World Cup action. Plenty of opportunities to trade, and we got to start the run back from square one, but no problem. We got it on lock right here on Called It and On the Record.
I love the New York energy. I absolutely love it. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with Danny, you appropriately being stuck in the middle between us, being in Chicago geographically, but also being in the middle of the screen. Yep. And yeah.
Works out perfectly, fellas. But all right, let's go ahead and take a look at today's daily call. Pulled up here on Kalshi again. England and Ghana is the match where the daily call will be centered around. Now, you can see on the screen that England is a heavy favorite. They're trading at 83 cents. The draw is at 14 cents. And Ghana, if you think somehow they pull off a miraculous victory, you can trade the yes at 6 cents. But if you teeter on over to the right, you can see England versus Ghana. First half total over 1.5 goals scored. The yes is currently trading at 43 cents. The daily call from the crew at Called It gave out the yes on over 1.5 first half goals, trading at 40%. So, this is why we implore you to sign up for the newsletter because you can see the massive difference in the market. 40 cents is where they give it out. Currently, it's trading at 43 cents. Called It believes the true chances should be at 44%. So, still a little bit of an edge there. But Dane, let's kick it to you first. When you look at this matchup, obviously an overwhelming favorite with England over Ghana. Called It's going with the angle of the first half, not the full game, over 1.5 goals. Do you think there is going to be enough action to get it to that point?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to go on the other side on this one, Danny. I am fading the over 1.5 goals in the first half. Okay. Maybe in game, yes, but not in the first half. And I acknowledge that England scored 2 in the first half last time they played, but one of those was a penalty kick from Harry Kane very early in it. And here's what I would say. We've seen some of these heavyweights over the last couple of days, right? Like France ultimately scores 3 goals, but it's because it opened up in the second half. Norway yesterday scored 3 goals, but it was because it opened up in the second half. A lot of these times, these teams are playing a little bit closer to the vest and tighter early. And I think that's what we're going to see with England and Ghana. And here's the other thing. You got to look a little bit deeper into kind of the standings of Group L. England and Ghana, already have victories, right? So I believe that Ghana, even if it goes 1-0 England, and especially if it goes 1-0 England, I think Ghana is not going to quote unquote open it up because of the risk to get hit back on the counter. And here's why. Ghana has their third match of the group stage against Croatia. What I firmly believe, everybody believes England's going to win, right? That keeps Ghana on 3 points. Most people believe Croatia is going to wind up beating Panama. That would wind up with Croatia and Ghana tied for that second spot with 3 points. And they face each other in the last match of the group stage. Right now, however, Ghana is at +1 in the goal differential. Croatia is at -2 in the goal differential, right? So what I think Ghana needs to do today against England is not get blown out, quite frankly. They have to make it so that they maintain the goal differential edge against Croatia so that in that final match of the group stage, if they in fact draw, Ghana remains the second team in the group. I know that sounds a little bit, detailed, but these are the things that teams are looking into as they kind of get ready for the last match of the group stage. I think that goal differential is huge for Ghana and for Croatia. This way, when they play each other, a draw means Ghana would be second. So I say all that to mean Ghana, even if they go down 1 goal early, they are not going to open it up like we saw with Norway and Senegal, like we saw in the France game. I do not expect the floodgates to open. So put it all together, and I think while England may win, while England may score, they're not going to blow it open, and I say no instead of the call it here. So I would actually go the other way. I do not think that England is getting 2 or more goals in the first half.
Yeah, and if you want to trade on the Noah Kelsey right now, John, it's at 58 cents. What do you make of this trade?
Look, I think Dane makes some great points. Dane, I'm going to be honest with you. You almost swayed me. I think that that's a great strategy. I just look at this as England is the class of this group. England is one of the best teams in this tournament. England is a team that can win this tournament. I don't know if they will win this tournament. It's really early on. I think Ghana has a good team. I think they've got some exciting young talent, but I don't know, man. I don't know if that strategy is going to work for them. I think it just might be a little bit too much England, a little bit too much Harry Kane. And I think that they're going to come out and they're going to look to set the tone. They're going to look to show everybody that they are the best team in the world. That's England. Again, I don't know if they are, but that's their goal. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to win this tournament for the first time in 60 years. And I think now you're going to start to see with teams getting, 1 match, 2 matches under their belt, they're going to start to open things up. They're really going to start to feel themselves. And I think England is just too good. And I would not be surprised. So I'm going yes on this for the 1.5 goals in the first half for England.
Yeah, listen, John, I don't disagree with you, right? Like, yeah, I think England right now is like the third, fourth, or fifth choice behind, obviously, France and Spain in that same tier with like an Argentina or Brazil or Portugal to absolutely win the World Cup. I just think the blueprint of this exact game, and listen, Argentina won 2-0 yesterday, right? It was 1 goal in the first half. France wound up running away. It was 1 goal in the first half. Norway wound up piling on, but it was 1 goal in the first half. What definitely could happen is England's up 1-0 at halftime, and we have a 2-0 final. And that is kind of, John, dominance on some level, right? But I just don't think it's going to go that open, because if it happens, I think Ghana is going to start to park the bus, pack it in, put 10 or 11 behind the ball to prevent what is, more of a kind of death knell for them in the future. And when you have these teams that are going to, as you put it, show their class, it kind of takes two to tango. A lot of these goals we see in the second half are on the counterattack because that team is putting a lot of men forward and then they get caught, on the comeback. And I don't think Ghana is going to expose themselves to that with so much still at stake, likely with that third match day against Croatia to follow.
I do think it's a great strategy for Ghana for sure. Again, they've earned that by winning a match already, and they earn the right to play for tomorrow. I just think sometimes talent wins the day. I'm a big, rankings guy going into these tournaments. Where do teams stack up? How many top 100 players do they have? And I just think that ultimately the attack from England is just going to be too much in the first half. And that's so I'm going with the yes, but I do like your strategy. I do like your thought process. I do think that's how Ghana's going to play it. I just don't think it's going to matter.
Man, all right. Well, we've heard from Dane. We've heard from John. Dane is going against the call. John is in support of the call. Myself, I am also going against the call. I do agree with Dane here, John. Sorry to go on the other side, my friend. But look, even before Dane made some excellent points, that's where I was trending, just because, and I think the way you put it perfectly, obviously with the tiebreaker scenario, goal differential, outstanding. But then in the sense of how these teams have really come alive in the second half. Now, it's not to say you blindly take what happens in other games and apply it here, but it is important to recognize that with a lot of these more studly teams. And soccer in general isn't a high scoring affair. So in general, betting the over for just the first half when it's at 1.5, where one team in Ghana was very fortunate to get the 1 goal in the last game. So certainly you're banking on England getting here to themselves, to where if they get the 1, like you said, from the side of Ghana, like they could easily, park the bus. Like they could just hang back and just hope and pray for the best at that point, which then England, they're going to keep pressing, but Ghana's certainly preparing for that aspect of it. That's what I think you got to assume. So I would rather take like an England team total over for the entire game. I'd rather maybe do England on the spread, but the first half, it just seems so narrow and just a lot more easing into it as opposed to just thinking it's going to be more conservative and trusting the under. So I'm with you, Dane. I'm trading on the no for this market.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, listen, the thing that's interesting, though, is in England's first game, Harry Kane got a penalty kick in the 12th minute. And I guess that is always live too, right? When things like that happen, you never know, right? Could there be a red card? Could there be something else? But I think it would take something like that to kind of force the opening up to kind of happen, right? If this is just kind of with the regular run of play, I think it will be a little tight to the vest early.
Yeah. All right. Well, good start, fellas. A lot to look forward to in that afternoon slate. But we have a game before that, which I want to move over to. And again, so the daily call, folks, in case you're just tuning in, it is on over 1.5 goals in the first half for England and Ghana. Dane and I are thinking that's not going to come to fruition. John is in support of it. Either way, that is trade number 1 for the restart of the run. I believe this is attempt number 7 for the run, taking 250 into just a little cash pile of $1 million. No big deal. We made it as far as 7. Hopefully, we can get it all the way past that and have ourselves some fun once again. But fellas, let's talk about another match. How about Portugal and Uzbekistan? So this one is going to kick things off for today's slate of games. Another massive favorite at Kalshi, Portugal trading at 86%. You can see the American odds over minus 660. The draw at 11% plus 755. Then if you want to look at Uzbekistan, 5% chance. 1772 would be your return if they end up winning. You can also see in the right corner, I clicked there, Cristiano Ronaldo to get a goal, minus 168. Pretty chalky there, Dane. I mean, this guy hasn't scored in his last 10 major tournament appearances, and it even goes back to 13 if you do not count the penalty kicks. A lot of narrative, a lot of discourse about Ronaldo, how much he should be involved. His sister, liking certain comments on Instagram. Is the locker room in shambles? Who knows what's going on with his Portugal team? Perhaps you do, though, Dane.
Yeah, so here's the deal, right? I think this is where Portugal does pour on. Okay, this is their opportunity against Uzbekistan. Remember, they are not winning this group right now. Colombia is up in this group, and they have the goal differential of +2. And again, Portugal is going to play Colombia in that final matchup, right? So Portugal will need to add on. I do think this, this could be kind of like the Curacao-Germany game we saw that went 7-1 for goodness sakes. But if you ask the narrow question about Ronaldo, I am not necessarily so sure about Ronaldo specifically, because quite frankly, I don't know how long Ronaldo is going to play. The man is over 40, and there's a lot of talk out there right now about, is Portugal actually better without Ronaldo? And I don't know that they are quote unquote better without him, but I do think it is time for Ronaldo to maybe accept a different role. He is not right now Messi, Mbappe, Haaland, Kane, anybody like that who needs to be this premier striker and goal scorer. I think Portugal is actually better if Ronaldo accepts something of a different role. Bruno Fernandes is now the engine that runs this team. I mean, when you think about guys like Silva, Leao, Neto, they have world-class width on their team, right? And I think if Ronaldo, almost like I make the analogy, John is over out there in LA right now. He probably remembers that when the Lakers had their best stretch of the season, it was when Hall of Famer GOAT LeBron James accepted a role to not be the man anymore. He deferred to Luka Doncic. He deferred to Austin Reeves, played more of a facilitator role, and that was less good for the statistical output of LeBron James, but better for the Lakers overall. I believe a similar thing needs to happen for CR7. He needs to realize that he does not need to be the point all the time. He needs to play, I'm not saying a full-on decoy role, but something of a facilitator, something of just an option. It is not Ronaldo and 10 other guys. It is Team Portugal. And that is what I think could make Portugal literally go further in this tournament comprehensively for the side. So, in this opportunity against Uzbekistan, maybe he goes off. Maybe he goes crazy, but this could also be an opportunity where some of the other guys try to get their sense of play, try to get their good feelings going as well. And because I'm not exactly sure of which way I would go, I would pass on all of the Ronaldo specific plays in this one, but I do think Portugal could run up the score. They need to in the goal differential. Uzbekistan will be a willing participant. So if you want to go with, Portugal -1.5, Portugal -2.5. This could be one where the floodgates do open against Uzbekistan, but I would not necessarily play the Ronaldo one specifically because of all the drama you've seen. Is it good for Portugal? No, but Ronaldo needs to kind of know his role a little bit, get a little bit humble in the later stages of his career. We'll see if that can happen, but that is ultimately what I think is best for this side comprehensively.
Humbling Ronaldo, is it possible?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if he's got the DNA in him, right? It's tough to tell all the greats, but I saw LeBron James do it, and it worked for the Lakers. You've seen Tom Brady become a different kind of quarterback later in his career. These things do happen to the overall benefit of the team. I don't know if CR7 is capable of it, though.
Yeah, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, right? They both won a Super Bowl in the latter stages of their career, going out there and being a different kind of player. He's old. He's almost done. He's played poorly, but he's still Ronaldo, right? At least in his mind, 41 years old. Age is just a number. He's in great shape. He's got the look. Dane, I agree with you. I think this is the kind of thing that we need to see. Is the ego going to allow him to do this? That is the question. I'm also with you on just the team, right? I mean, they've got a loaded midfield. They had a very disappointing draw against Congo. They really need to come out and do what they need to do. This is Portugal, and they've got an unbelievable opportunity to do that. They are so much better than Uzbekistan. They need to show that. So anything when you're looking at trading for Portugal to go off, trading for Portugal to win this game, trading whatever, I am all in on that. But I'm with you on this thing. I don't know what you can bank on with Ronaldo because I don't know what his role is going to be. And then I don't know if he's going to be good enough. We've seen him misfire already. I don't know if he's going to be good enough to carry the day if the game winds up on his legs. So I know that would be sacrilege to say even 4 years ago, but right now that's the reality that we live in. So I don't know if ego and ability is going to allow me to trade on anything that is Ronaldo based. But if you want to go Portugal based, yeah, you're looking coming into this tournament from NBC Sports, the number 9 ranked team versus the number 38th ranked team. And I think you're going to see them come out and do what they need to do. But I don't know what Ronaldo's going to be able to do. And I don't know what they're going to let him do. And I think that that's a weird mix and a risky proposition.
Yeah, and just to go back on that first game for Ronaldo, everybody was assuming it was just going to be shots galore because you saw Mbappe put in a couple goals. You
Right.
saw Messi have his hat trick. Ronaldo had 3 shots, but no shots on goal, and he's trading at 61 cents to score. So maybe you could see some value in the no at 41 cents. But as we were talking before the show, and we've kind of alluded to, I mean, there's still a chance that Ronaldo may be the guy if it comes to a penalty. So maybe instead of taking the no, you could trade on a player like Bruno Fernandes, who's at 39 cents to score. Because, John, like you're saying as well, I also have some interest in maybe the total over 2.5, or just Portugal rather, just their team total over 2.5. And if you're assuming that there's a necessity and a likelihood they get 3 goals, it's probably not going to all be Ronaldo. Heck, none of them may even be Ronaldo. So maybe you look at a player who's becoming the top dog in Bruno Fernandes. I would look at the team total over 2.5 goals. I would trade on that. And I would trade a little bit of, like we say, just a little bit of fun money there, a little bit of pizza money on 39 cents for Bruno Fernandes. I think those are a couple decent looks today.
Yeah, I like the
I
team
just
over
don't know
2.5.
how do you tell Ronaldo, Dane? That's my question. Like, how do you have this conversation? He is, or technically, I guess, was Portuguese soccer, right? And now he's no longer that guy. And that's the problem. It's, this is his swan song. He wants to win this World Cup. He wants to go out on top. He wants to put the final piece in his trophy case. But is all of that more important to him than him being the guy who does that? And that's why I don't even know if you're another player on that team who's great, if you're the coach of that team. I don't know how you even start to have this conversation with him.
No, listen, John, I think that's the toughest conversation in all of sports, right? The aging stud, right? And having to accept another role. That's why I made the analogy with LeBron James. We have seen this in a number of times, even without GOATs per se, when they have to accept not being the guy and how it is better overall. I guess the only thing I would say, John, is there's nothing left for Ronaldo as an individual. Right? He's already recognized as one of the best players of all time. He's already made billions of dollars, quite frankly, right? The only thing left, to your point, is this final trophy in the case. And so if he can understand that comprehensively they are a better, more dangerous team overall with him in a slightly different role, then that's the way in. What we're all saying is, we use the term ego, we use the term, can he accept it, right? That's the part I don't know. But I think the line of reasoning, I think the approach to it is obvious. The variable here is, can he accept it? That's why I brought up the analogy to LeBron James. When he did, in fact, accept it, you saw results that were better for the team comprehensively. And there are other examples around, far and wide for this. The question is, it comes down to him. Can he humble himself? Can he not have that ego? I think the only way to be effective on that is the idea of that makes them better and a bigger threat to win the World Cup. Portugal is, I believe, like the 4th or 5th choice right now. And maybe not against Uzbekistan will it matter. But when you're in the quarterfinals and you're playing Argentina or Brazil or Germany or something like that, this team needs to have practice, context of how to operate in that way with Ronaldo as not the entire focus, the target hog, as it were. Right? I mean, think about it in the NFL. You can have a stud alpha wide receiver that is demanding the ball and getting targets all the time, but that is not good for the offense. What's good for the offense is to have so many different options, and you can kind of dictate, let the defense dictate where the matchups are, right? That's what Portugal kind of needs to do, in my opinion, and they need to do that in the group stage, in the round of 32, to understand how they operate best once they're going up against the heavies later on this tournament.
I think that's a great point. I think that's exactly how you have to do it. And I love that you brought up the sort of diva wide receiver in the NFL, because I just, that's what I keep coming back to. Does Ronaldo see himself as the sun that everything revolves around? And will he be able to put that aside? I don't know. I agree, though. That's what he needs. That's how they have to pitch it to him. Hey, you got one last thing to do here in your career before you go off and you be handsome and rich and whatever for the rest of your adult life. It's put the World Cup trophy in the case, and can you just buy in? And you make some great points. I just don't know. I don't know.
We do not know, but we will get one step closer to finding out later today, actually in just about an hour and a half or so, when we get Portugal and Uzbekistan facing off in today's first match. Ooh, it's gonna be an interesting one. We'll see if Portugal can tack on the goals. We'll see if Ronaldo will be a big part of it, or if someone like Bruno Fernandes can have a more sizable impact. Either way, speaking of egos, guys, I did want to bring it back to what we saw last week, where somebody's ego got certainly bruised and battered, and that's when they made a trade on Polymarket, if you recall, for $1 million to win their match against Cape Verde. It did not come to fruition because that game ended in a draw. It would have netted just $85,000. Instead, this user lost $1 million. So we wanted to bring this up because we spent time on other trades, but this one was the mega trade that was just absolutely mind-blowing. To put that amount, of course, but then to return that little and then to not even get any of it. Oh my goodness, guys. I know you saw this last week, but our team wanted to ask you guys if you believe that this is the worst trade in history. I would tend to believe there's got to be worse. I get that, $1 million to get 85K is not substantial and then losing it, but I'm thinking of just like more painful losses and just idiotic bets. Like statistically, this should have come through, but it didn't. I get that it's dumb. I don't know if it's the worst. I'm trying to think of some examples. I'll have to marinate when you guys spew on this. But Dane, let's start with you. Where do you rank this as worst trades of all time?
So here's the deal. I think semantics come into play here. Is it the worst trade of all time? Really depends on what this trader's objective was, right? Because if you are trying to have financial gain, this is a silly thing to do. Okay, you to get 8% on a return. First of all, if you're in position, because I'm not, if you're in position to wager $1 million on something for an 8% return, kudos to you, my friend. But then if you have that kind of money lying around, you probably know that you can just get an 8% return in a stock market or in a different kind of trade, right? So I firmly believe, and you see this all across the industry, Danny and John, you see all the time where people are putting this stuff out there, not because of the actual finances of it, but for the likes and the PR and the virality of it all, right? So again, it depends on what the objective was. If the objective was to make money, I refuse to believe that someone who had, to your term, Danny, the pizza money of $1 million actually was trying to be profitable. I think more likely this is one of two things. One, you are straight looking for the PR and the likes of it all, in which case you achieved your objective. So but it's not the worst trade of all time. And the other idea is you're just like Brendan Sorsby is a gambleaholic, and you just needed the action. You just needed the juice for all this, in which case it was not the worst of all time because you achieved the objective. I just don't believe this was someone who was like strategic about trying to help their finances or be profitable. In that case, yeah, it's a pretty dumb trade, but I don't think that was the objective of whoever this trader was. I think this was just about notoriety or PR. And in that vein, it wasn't the dumbest because we're talking about it right now and on the record.
True.
I do think this, yeah, it's terrible bang for buck, right? Absolutely the worst in that sense. The prediction market part of this, it's a bit of a newer game, right? Compared to some of the traditional avenues where you might be able to put some money on something. So in that sense, maybe it's the worst because it's a newer game in town. But man, I just look at this as a person with a lot of money, because Dane, I agree with you, right? You're doing it for the PR, you're doing it for the virality, but I think that there's also this part of it. Sometimes you've got a lot of money. You can't be told no. You don't want to be told no. You want to seem like you're the smartest person in the room. And you're like, I'm going to do this thing because it doesn't matter if I lose money. And when I make money, if I make money, I can pat myself on the back. Look how good I did, even though the return is so small. You see it a lot of times. People do things like, fantasy baseball daily markets on stuff like that, where they might turn around and they just flood the market every way. They hedge everything. And then they're like, yeah, well, I made money. It's like, well, yeah, well, you put money on everything. You're hedging so much. You're going to get yourself some kind of a return, but you're not good at this. You just have more money to flood into the market than you or me or Danny or whoever the case may be. So yeah, I don't know if you could call it the worst. I'll say this. I don't think we're going to see this on the run anytime soon. anything in that sense, because I just don't think it's good value. And I think there were certainly ulterior motives baked into this for sure.
That's all I'm saying, John, right? Like you brought up, and I was talking about the PR and the clicks and the virality, or just like the sheer need to scratch the itch, almost, kind of vice of it all. But you bring up another point. Ego could have been the objective there as well. And then in which case, guess what? Objective achieved. All I'm saying is when you talk about, is it the worst trade ever? It kind of assumes from a pure profitability standpoint. And I don't know that that was the objective, because quite frankly, if you have $1 million to trade in prediction markets, you are likely doing it in a different way, unless, of course, the ulterior motives are at play. Just like we can't get into Ronaldo's head, I'm not going to get into this trader's head, but I'd be willing to bet $1 million, in fact, that I don't think this was about trying to increase their bankroll.
I do not want to get into this person's head. Let me just put it that way. Regardless of what the motivations are, this is not a person whose head I would like to get into, because it's just not the kind of person I want to be around, whatever the reason might be. Save for the fact that maybe they've got $1 million to burn, and that might be a person you want to hang out with once or twice. But other than that, it's not my kind of guy. Let's put it that way.
See, for all the reasons you guys stated, I agree. I don't think it's the worst trade of all time. I think something that would be worse is when you traded a substantial amount of money on a massive favorite for something that has never happened. Take, for example, when UMBC overcame Virginia in the NCAA tournament, the first 16 seed to beat a 1 seed. And imagine if you just put your entire bankroll on Virginia. Oh, it's never happened. It's not going to happen. And there you're actually probably trying to make a profit for some of these professional bettors, and that didn't come through. Now, are you an idiot for doing so? That's up for debate. But again, historically speaking, it was certainly in your favor, considering it never happened. Like, to me, that's worse than something in soccer where it's like a draw. Like, yeah, it's soccer. That happens a good amount. And in fact, if you're betting draws blindly, you're making a substantial amount of money this tournament. So that's where I would kind of lean toward being more of the worst trade of all time. I don't know if you guys have any off the top of your head specifically, but that's what I came up with.
No, I think that makes sense. And you bring up the good point, Danny, about soccer inherently being a kind of 3 outcome market. You know what I mean? And so that is always the kind of whammy that is there. So if I was going to do this, even for the clicks and the likes and the ego, I would do it on something that was a pure yes no kind of thing. The other thing here is when you're talking about that 16 over the 1, the UMBC and Virginia game, you saw it happening and you could have got out.
Right.
You could have backed out, in the second half when that lead was being maintained. But in this kind of situation where it's 0-0 in the 60th minute, the 70th minute, the 80th minute, you're still holding on hope that Spain can get that one. And so the idea that you would catch out is less likely. So you're always setting yourself up for failure in a number of ways here. Yeah, there's been the Patriots comeback against the Falcons in the Super Bowl. There's been teams that have been down 3-0 in series, right? That you could kind of take them to win the series when up 3-0. There's been plenty of other opportunities, but I do think because of the three-way action, soccer is a particularly less than smart way to go about it because of the draw.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, Danny, when I was on last week, we were having a little fun in this final segment with, will this be the first time a goaltender scores a goal in the World Cup? Right. And I think putting your whole bankroll on something like that, where you're like, well, it's never happened before, so it's due to happen, right? It's been almost 100 years of World Cup play. This is due to happen. I'm just going to slap $1 million on this happening. I think that's a worse proposition because there's a reason why it's never happened before. And like Dane's saying, once you kind of go with that, you can't trade out of it because the whole thing is sticking with it. If you're saying, hey, any goaltender in any match throughout the tournament until the tournament's over, you kind of need to let that one ride. Whereas, sometimes you can see this stuff happening and you're like, no, I'm going to cash out. I'm going to get out ahead of time. And, this is just a binary choice. It's either going to happen or it doesn't happen. So I think something like that would be worse. But certainly, again, this was not a good one.
That is for certain. And I'm sure we'll see plenty more of it with much more action to go throughout the stages of the World Cup. But fascinating to see some of these trades unfold as high as $1 million. Again, if you guys recall, it was a Spain outright against Cape Verde just to net $85K on $1 million trade. Didn't happen for that guy, but hey, maybe he did or she win in the end if it came out for the PR stunt. So there's always some winners depending on how big the trades are. And even though it wasn't 85K, could have came in other departments. But hopefully we do see some winners across the board today with some of the analysis that we got dished out from our guys John Saponaro and Dane Martinez. Make sure to follow them on the socials. You can see on the screen at John Saponaro on X at Spittin' Speeds is where you can get Dane on X. Gentlemen, appreciate your insight and entertainment per usual. So folks, make sure you go give them a shout on the socials. Appreciate everybody tuning in to another edition of On the Record. Also make sure you check out the website www.calledit.media. Sign up with your email, completely free. You get analysis and insight from the team at Called It to see what the daily call is, to take part of the Run Our Challenge, where we look to turn $250 all the way through 12 different trades into $1 million. Trade number 1 today, 1.5. Over in the first half between England and Ghana. Dana and I are thinking it may not be a good look. John and the team at Called It believes that is the look to take for that World Cup match today. But let us know what you think. On the website, you can log your opinion, you can put in your trade and see how you stack up amongst the community. So until tomorrow, where I'll be joined at the same time, 11 a.m. Eastern, Stephanie Odie, Adam Coffin, myself, be talking plenty more World Cup action. But until then, best of luck with all your trades, and we will see you on the record.